The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Just listen. Do you smell something Ryan Luis Rodriguez presiding? Your eyes for the Honorable Judge Rodriguez.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of the People vs. Ghostbusters Afterlife, a 2021 horror comedy about the descendants of original Ghostbuster Egon Spengler who must finish the job of a world-saving work that their grandfathers started. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always, in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Bouncin Bobby LePire, you are representing the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dear Ghostbusters Afterlife, fuck you, you fucking fuck. Fuck the directing, fuck the writing, fuck the story structure, fuck the editing. In the words of the immortal Ryan Luis Rodriguez, case dismissed.
Hey, he can do
Whoa.
that.
I like what I'm hearing.
But
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
LePire.
Your Honor. Well,
Appearing
no, if
on
you do
behalf of the
dismiss, I
defense is Mr. Dylan J. Schlender. Please present your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. If there's something strange and it don't look good, who you gonna call? Me! That's right. I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan to the point where I am drinking from a Ghostbuster mug so graciously gifted to me by the opposing counsel. Drink sound effect, drink sound effect. Ghostbusters is an amazing thing in media. A movie that has spawned all manner of spin-offs and merchandising. While not at the Star Wars or Star Trek levels, it is close. So, of course, we're going to get a remarkably modern sequel, soft reboot kind of thing by director Jason Reitman, who is the son of Ivan Reitman, who directed the first movie. And this generational understanding covers the film like a freshly slimed Peter Venkman. Afterlife should not so much be seen as a continuation, but maybe as an introduction, an attempt to interest a new and younger, I dare say, hipper generation into Ghostbusters. The film, of course, stands on its own well enough. For once, we have child actors that are not insufferable, we have some cheeky humor, and we have fantastic callbacks to the beloved franchise. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghostbusters Afterlife stands before you innocent of all charges. It is only guilty of loving us too much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender. Mr. LePire, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
My first exhibit is the very beginning of the movie. This, I don't know if I should call it a chase sequence or what, that the prologue that opens in which Egon is killed is so badly edited and so confusing. The first time I watched this abomination and crime against humanity, I had to rewind it 5 minutes in because I thought I missed scenes. I thought I just spaced out for a spell and missed something. No, it's just so bad. It's just all these hard cuts from one thing to the next. He's in the mine, then he's driving his car, then he's at the farm. There's no establishing shots of where he is or what's going on. And I realize it's meant to be this very fraught, tense, something big and dangerous is about to happen. But we as audience members have no context for anything going on. And this is a little tricky because I know, sadly, Harold Ramis is dead, but how they try to keep him out of the frames or only show him in shadow and profile is really awkwardly handled, where it feels like they're trying to keep his identity a secret the entire time, when for most of the movie, they just say his name, and like it's not a secret. So this whole thing just starts off on the wrong foot.
I have to respectfully disagree with learned counsel here. I believe
Respectfully.
as I do all things.
Mm.
I think that the frenetic cutting that you see does help raise the stakes because it doesn't really slow down until Egon sits in the chair and then we see Zool form behind him. That's when it slows down, so it brings the tension to a crescendo. And as far as leaving Egon's identity kind of shadowed out and everything, obviously this is a practical concern with Harold Ramis having passed, but it also is a little mysterious, like what is going on? What is this guy doing? Pretend you're seeing this movie without having seen all the previews and the reams of press material that came out before this. If some kid were to just pop this into the 4K Blu-ray player or whatever it is we watch media on nowadays, this would be compelling and gripping you right away. Like, whoa, what's going on? So I think it's
only
fine.
ever saw one trailer for this movie, and it was not good. It was the teaser trailer where all that shows you is the car being uncovered by the Trevor character played by Finn Wolfhard, and then traveling through the cornfields. That's the entire teaser trailer. It was wretched. That's the only trailer I ever saw. I was still excited for this movie because I like most of Jason Reitman's movies. I liked the cast. I don't know what happened, especially because Gil Kinnan wrote this, and he's made some great films. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, again, I think the beginning works because it establishes the stakes, there's tension, and it has you very interested in what's going to happen next, which is what the opening of a movie's supposed to do. It's like the first Ghostbusters when the librarian gets the sock scared off her, right? It's like, oh my god, what's going on? What did she see? We need to know more.
Objection. I could actually follow the action going on in that one without being confused about who, where, when, or why.
I'm going to sustain that one. But Mr. LePire, please present your next exhibit.
Thank you, Your Honor. My next exhibit is the music. The movie itself, in terms of the story progression and the character beats, doesn't necessarily have this problem, but the music has a big tonal issue where we will just slam one song into the other, and they do not fit the mood we were just in. For example, the main siblings, Phoebe's played by McKenna Grace, who's the one thing in this movie that works entirely. She's great. And then her brother Trevor is played by that guy from Stranger Things, Wolfman something or another.
Yes, Wolfman Jack is
Wolfman
in this
Yes,
film.
that's it.
You
That's
said
it.
his name properly before.
Finn Wolfhard, who is awful in this film, but
that
that's
still
another.
sounds like a made-up name, Your Honor.
Sustained. No, please continue, Mr.
That's another point I'll get to later. They wind up in jail for reckless driving and endangerment and all this stuff. They get out, they get home, and after that, they're having a serious conversation with the mom, and she's just fed up with certain things. We smash cut to them in the morning at this diner, presumably eating breakfast, hatching a plan to how to stop the main threat of Gozer coming back, and the really dramatic music cue here. I think it's a piano. I did not actually write down what instrument was being played when Phoebe and her mom are talking about everything that's going on and how she's like, I'm happy you found yourself here, but to me, it's a reminder my dad didn't care for me. To them planning is so disparate and so jarring that it takes you out of the movie from it. It's this soft, sort of low-key dramatic moment, and then it's this intense buildup as they're planning how they're gonna get everything, get the equipment they need, and go. It does not work, and it creates these tonal shifts that the actual characterization and the story structure don't actually have. It's only present with these weird music changes.
I think one of the reasons this music point might be resonating so much with you is because it borrows so heavily from the established Ghostbuster music that we already know, and hearing it used in these new contexts, it's different and it's interesting, but you can't attach too much to it, you know. So if someone's seeing this movie, like I said, this is a good introduction to the franchise for people, also being that handshake to the old fan base. That's a great way to kind of get them interested in recognizing those different musical cues. So I don't think it's a weakness, and I think when you talk about the tonal shifts, I mean, the franchise has always had these. It goes from very scary to very funny to even a little dramatic, even to a little romantic. The movies are basically a potpourri. They have a little bit of everything for everyone. Oh yeah, I believe so.
The first movie is very romantic. I would
and
make
Dana
that
Your Honor.
What I mean, Your Honor, you're the one in the jury. He should be telling you to shut up.
Yeah, shut up, Rob.
Finally, someone said it.
People say it a lot, actually. It hurts.
No, so my point is that I think this is not about the tones clashing or not working together. I think it's an understanding that these movies have a lot in them, that they do go from comedy to horror to sci-fi. And in this case too, it's still like a kid's adventure movie as well. You know, it has a bit of like that kind
If
of
this were
Goonie element to it.
Either the original Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, or even the terrible 2016, whatever year that one came out with Kristen
You're right.
Wiig.
It's 2016.
Thank you. McCarthy, which I also do not care for, though it's better than this. I would agree with you.
Case for another day, I'm sure.
Those are at least things like Ghostbusters is great and holds up well because it has the beats of a horror movie, but they go for the comedic reactions. That sort of thing. This is not shot, does not, outside of that opening prologue, which again I think is edited poorly, but it has moody lighting and some really cool use of shadow. Outside of that, though, nothing about this is a horror movie. Nothing about this is a comedy. This could be like the way it looks, the way it's lit, the way it moves about is. It's Earth to Echo. It's all these other kids' adventure movies. It's what's that stupid J.J. Abrams movie? Super 8. It just looks like a generic kid adventure. Insert Ghostbusters theming here, 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 and here. Move on with your life. There's no real sense of the horror at all in this. Things happen, but it's not scary. Like, if you want a great horror movie for kids, watch fucking Coraline. Watch Paranorman.
I would say those are
even better yet, for
kids.
Gil Kinnan did Monster House, and Monster House is incredible. There are better options. This isn't that. It's not funny, except maybe once by accident. It's none of those things. So I don't think that works at all.
I have to object, Your Honor. First of all, as I said, this has kid adventure movie elements into it. So the fact that it looks like one is not a demerit. That goes right to intentionality. And we do have scenes that are legitimately scary. Like he said, at the beginning of the movie, the prologue. At the end, when they're back at the farm at night. Again, this is a mirror image here. At the beginning of the movie, the end of the movie.
Objection.
And both at night. No, this is true. Let me finish my point, sir.
Yeah, let him finish.
You know, so when you have inside the mine, when the proton packs are zapping the portal and you have the hands coming out. So there are scary elements. I mean, Gozer's always scary to me. She's got a creepy voice and a creepy look. The demon dogs, they're very sinister in this. I mean, one kills Egon, for crying out loud. This is like the first time in a Ghostbusters movie where like a human's died, you know? It's like, it's pretty intense.
Mr. LePire?
As opposing counsel was just saying, not all the music, obviously, but they do reuse some music from other Ghostbusters media. And they had this leitmotif that is prominently used in the first movie. And here it is lightly played during the prologue. And then it comes in again when our main family move to the town of Somerville. And it starts up from them leaving the little town of Somerville to the outskirts where this farm that they've inherited from Egon Spengler is. And it's a shot of the car traveling down the road before turning onto the dirt driveway with the prophetic Revelations verse on it that starts this leitmotif. And it's such a weird place to start it because every other time it's used throughout the movie, both before and after, it's meant to indicate something important happening, and all they're doing is driving down the road. It's very strange and awkward.
Yeah, for the
It's
first time,
used
very important
again
scene.
when McKenna Grace finds the first Ghostbusters gadget. It's used again when she uncovers the basement. Um, it is signifying all these important things, and then it's also signifying they're driving down the road. You could have started it after they read the weird Revelations quote as they get closer to the house, and that would have made way more sense. The music in this movie is a mess, is what I'm saying.
Mr. LePire, if you want to present your next exhibit.
Why have Annie Potts for one scene? They use her like just some random lawyer, and then she's gone? Come on now. Everybody loves this character. Everybody loves this actress. Do something with her. Make her a part of this. Get rid of your 1,000 other characters who are new and don't do anything interesting. Like, what is Lucky's point outside of just making a joke in the jail cell? The only joke that actually works in the movie. She can drive a car. Well, Janine's old enough to drive a car, obviously. What the hell? Make her get her really awesome, badass Ghostbusters moment that she's never
Best
actually
babysitter ever.
and it's so disheartening that they have her show up for a useless, thankless moment and don't actually do anything with her. That it's frustrating as a fan of this franchise. I don't even dislike 2 all that much. I don't think 2 is perfect like the first one is, but I still have fun with the second movie. And I loved the cartoon, The Real Ghostbusters. That was a tremendous fun. So just to see this character robbed of something that could have been really interesting is frustrating.
I think we have to appreciate the fact that Ghostbusters Afterlife is starting its own thing. And part of that is this hat tip to those old characters. And so what Janine has is a cameo. It is a textbook cameo. Of course, some other stuffed shirt lawyer, central casting type could have done that scene, but they didn't. It was nice reintroducing Janine back. And then when people go back and explore the franchise, if this is how they got into it, they're going to see that she's a very interesting character. I think what she brought to the table for that scene, just establishing that, Egon was out here and he had left you no money, that definitely works. And then don't forget, we see her at the end with Winston as well, discussing the future of the Ghostbusters, a future that it seems like she might be part of.
That is true, but that scene is so quick and it's after like all the main action that it doesn't really count. But here's the thing.
I mean, it does count. I'll object there. You're on.
Okay, yeah. I misphrased that. I apologize.
Sustained.
Thank you.
But that's after all the main action and stuff. It is an afterthought to bring her back, where making her an actual part of this could up the personal stakes. She could tell the Carrie Coon's character, whose name I forget, that's the mom to our 2 child protagonists, more about Egon. And, she's Egon's friend. She's his confidant. She's the one person of everybody who stuck by him after all this time.
Doesn't seem interested in learning more about Egon.
She doesn't. But she also doesn't seem interested in raising her kids. This character is terribly written, and if we had 9 hours, I could go on about every issue I have with this movie. But I'm trying to get to my main points.
Look, she is a bad mother, which is part of her character. So it's a good character that's acted well, but she is playing a bad mother. So don't.
I don't have anything against Carrie Coon in the role. The only actor I think is bad is Finn Wolfhard. But
Objection, I still don't think that's his real name, Your Honor.
I look at IMDb right now. Finn Wolfhard. That's what it tells me.
Excuse me, it's Finn Wolfman Jack. We all know this is true.
Probably pronounced Wolford.
Oh, it might be actually. That didn't even occur to me, to be honest.
Oh, I feel so bad now.
I mean, it probably is. I hope not, though.
I do actually hope it is Wolfhard, just because it's so funny.
Mr. LePire, do you have any further exhibits?
I have one more exhibit, and it is Finn Wolfhard, Finn Wolfhard, Wolfman Jack, whatever you want to call him. I realize he's a child still, and I realize he's been on Stranger Things since like the beginning of that show. He is awful in this movie to the point where I'm shocked they didn't replace him kind of bad. And mind you, I say this acknowledging every other actor, even if I don't like their character and I think their character is poorly written, are doing a good job. I think Podcast is super annoying, but he's meant to be annoying, and I think Logan Kim does a fun job as him. McKenna Grace steals that the entire movie from everyone, adults or other child actors alike. Her Phoebe is the one interesting, relatable thing in this movie, and I feel like just like with my Babadook case, that might be enough to get it off. But he's terrible. He has no emotive anything at all, and unlike with the Phoebe character, whose weird ways or unusual or unexpected or different ways of expressing herself is written as part of the character, he's either bored or didn't understand the assignment, and I'm not sure which one it is. There's a moment where he just gets hired at that diner. Skippers is what I think it's called. Spinners. And his family's annoying him in the car, so he says, "Just let me out here." The way he says it is so unbelievable. It's not like an annoyed teen being frustrated. It's like he just wants to get the line out, so he's done with his scene. It's just too fast. It doesn't work, and he's like this the entire movie. It's baffling that he's this bad. He has no romantic chemistry with the lady who plays Lucky. I don't know her name. Celeste O'Connor. So that entire subplot goes nowhere, and it's because he's just not bringing it at all. He's horribly miscast, which is weird because the cast is the one thing in the movie I think works more often than not.
Well,
Mr.
I would
Schlender?
say you say he's miscast, right? But then you're also saying that you don't even like how the character is written regardless. So is your point being that it's just a bad character or it was bad acting? Now,
I think it's both.
Now, here's what I think. I don't think it's either. Most of the time when we see Finn Wolfman Jones, he is trying to impress Lucky. He is a teenage boy. Now, I can't speak for everyone in this courtroom, but having been a teenage boy trying to impress ladies, you act like a doof. You try to be stoic and above it. You try to keep your cool, and that's exactly how he played and how he did it. And he came across as a bit of a doof and awkward because that's how a lot of teenage boys actually do indeed come across when they're trying to play it straight like that. And I don't see that as a bad thing for his character. I think it kind of keeps him in a box a bit so we can let the other characters really flourish. Like you said, like Phoebe, like Podcast, who are the real stars of the show here. So it keeps him simple, but it doesn't keep him bad.
Here's the thing. See, I think Podcast is terribly written as well. He's written like an adult man's version of what a child would sound like and talk like, as opposed to an actual child. But I think Logan Kim is totally bringing it and works with what he has and makes the role fun in a way the script does not. That child actor is able to overcome the poor writing, which is, again, for every single character that isn't named Phoebe, and really make it. It's just the Benicio del Toro Wolfman here that cannot do that. He's the only actor who feels out of place. He's the only actor who's not doing anything. Because I see what you're saying about him maybe intentionally being kind of a doof, as you put it. But he's like that when talking to his mom. He's like that when talking to his sister. He's just always like that in every scene. And it doesn't help that he's the least developed character in the family unit, where I guess cars are his passion, or did he just happen to decide to start fixing it that day because he found it? It's never brought up, so who the hell knows?
Okay, we
Um,
see him fixing the car on the road trip scene, and we see him watching a car video when he's getting his haircut. Cars are his thing. Look, it's not the most mind blowing character trait, right? But it does work and it is established, and it works for the film. You have to make these kind of allowances. We can't have a 4-hour movie explaining how he's feeling about finding out about his grandfather and his emotions. We don't have time for that. We got to get back to busting ghosts and focusing on the real star, McKenna Grace as Phoebe.
I absolutely agree with you. So cut out some of the extraneous extra characters, like Lucky. Again, Sylvester O'Connor is fine in the role. Cut out the character, make the movie a little more streamlined, make it under 2 goddamn hours.
But earlier
And
you were saying to replace her with Janine. So what do you want to do? You want to replace her, or you want to?
but you could replace her with
You're all
Janine and
That's the
address
same thing.
the mom the mom stuff at the same time, streamlining 2 separate storylines.
All I'll say is that the Lucky and Finn Wolfhard work well
Wolford.
because it is simple and it is straightforward. And it does give more time to what we are. So far, I would point out to the jury that we agree that McKenna Grace, who's fantastic, it gives her more time to shine, which is really what this is all about.
I wish this weren't an ensemble piece, but it is. So
Yeah, but you have your standouts, just like in the original. It's a great ensemble cast where everyone nails their parts accordingly. And in this case, they decided to keep it a little more simple so they could focus more on Phoebe's growth, development, relationship with Egon, all those important things that I'm sure I'll get to as part of one of my exhibits if I stop interrupting.
so never.
Yes, the prosecution has rested. Mr. Schlender, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
Thank you, Your Honor. My first exhibit is basically what we've just been talking about, and that's the show-stealing performance by McKenna Grace as Phoebe. Egon's granddaughter, Grace, brings a lot of poise to the role, right? McKenna Grace playing Phoebe, I should say. She effortlessly presents herself in a way that is believable and is not insufferably precocious like we see in so many child actors today. We see her show off her talent for science, but she still has like a childlike wonder to all of it. We see her trying to make friends and make awkward jokes. She's a very believable, very lived-in character who's incredibly endearing. And what's nice is her performance is supposed to emulate and compare to Egon Spengler. They invite that comparison in, not just because of their relation, but just because of how she acts and handles. So those are big shoes to fill, and I think she does a splendid job of kind of taking that Egon character and making it her own, because we have this kind of confusion when we're watching this movie where we want to know who's who. Like, okay, Phoebe's Egon, podcast is Ray, but where do we go from there? And I think part of that is that we're establishing new characters who are kind of tangentially related to the old characters. We're letting them do their own thing. So we have this cast of kids now anchored, instead of like in Ghostbusters 1 where they're anchored by, I would say, Bill Murray's performance as Venkman. We're instead anchored here with McKenna Grace as Phoebe in a quasi Egon role, and it's very strong. She's very good, very funny, and does drive home some great emotional impact, like when she's interacting with Egon's ghost at the end of the movie. You definitely feel that, and it's also very funny when podcast comes out covered in marshmallow. So that's my first example.
Mr. LePire, any criticism of this argument?
No, McKenna Grace is genuinely fantastic in this film and gives a much better performance than it deserves. I did not think it was funny when podcast came out covered in marshmallows, because they have no reason to exist here other than nostalgia bait. This whole movie is just nostalgia bait to be nostalgia bait. In the first film, it made sense because it's what they thought of. It's the one thing that popped in their head when they all tried to think of nothing. Here, it happens because it happened in the other movie, not for an actual story reason.
I respectfully disagree. Goes with the Gozerian is consolidating her power, and she's about to rise up. And part of that energy getting out into the world is echoes of what she has done in the past. And in this case, it is the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, the form of the destroyer that she took in the original movie, and now manifesting itself in actual little marshmallows who are little demons who like to bite at Paul Rudd and also set themselves on fire. It's very funny and great merchandising.
So they're going for s'moricide here. What are they doing?
Oh, they're having fun with it. They're just being silly little marshmallow men. Because the energy is emanating out of Vince Clortho, who's there eating the dog food.
Actual marshmallows being transformed into them as opposed to one giant marshmallow from the ether?
All right, so the one giant marshmallow in the first one, that's Gozer. That's the form that she took, right?
So that's what they think of.
This one, it is just the residual energy getting stronger and stronger. So, remember the first one when Winston says, "Has it ever occurred to you the reason we're so busy is because the dead have been rising from the grave?" Well, that kind of cross riff is about to happen here, and that's why the energy is spilling out into the world. That's why the ghosts are showing up. That's why the demon dogs are able to take corporeal form and repossess people. It's for another coming of Gozer. And it's using some stuff that had been used in the past. It makes perfect sense.
I would 1000% disagree, but I don't think we're ever going to see eye to this eye, so I'm going to leave it at that.
We'll let the jury decide.
Mr. Schlender, your next exhibit.
All right, the last thing I'd really like to talk about, and I hinted at it in a bunch of the other arguments and rejoinders that we've had, is that this is really an intergenerational film. This isn't just for huge Ghostbuster fans like myself and Mr. LePire. On the internet, they want to start calling themselves ghost heads, like deadheads. I don't buy into that. It's stupid. You're just a Ghostbusters fan. So if you're out there and you call yourself a ghost head, knock it off, okay? You're just
what about Busties?
Like the movie. See, that would be fine. It's like Trekkies trying to call themselves Trekkers now. It's not a thing. You're a Trekkie. It's all good. My point is, nearly 30 years after the first Ghostbusters, the world has been through a lot. And right now, we are in an age where what inspires this generation is things that are more readily accessible, right? So if you go back and you look at what inspired Star Wars, like the Flash Gordon serials and things, those things weren't as accessible to Star Wars fans as what's accessible to Ghostbusters fans today is. And with that in mind, we can see how Jason Reitman's project is an homage to what his father and the creators before him made, but it also serves as an introduction to new fans. It's a great way to connect these two generations. And it's building not only goodwill with a loyal audience, but it's actually building a whole new audience. And we can see this with some of the points we've discussed already. The familiar music stings, a few of the callback lines, familiar characters. These
Objection. Everyone I know groans at one of those callback lines.
Which one?
Well, I guess I can't.
How they use "Who You Gonna Call"? Everyone I know, even people who liked the movie, thought that was a bad way of doing that.
I think I groaned in the rewatch.
I mean, why is the jury talking so much, Your Honor? Please.
Yeah, jury, shut up.
Thank you. Look. Is everything going to land? Look, it's not a perfect movie. That's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to determine whether it's guilty of being a bad movie. And some of these swings land better than others, like the music stings. Some of the lines do land. Some of the references do land very well. If you want to make a big deal about the sheriff saying, "Who you going to call?" by all means. And you know what? If you're going to find the movie guilty based on that, nothing I can say will convince you. But you guys are too smart for that. So I'm not. So we don't need to worry about that. And then when people go back and they rewatch the original Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters 2 Extreme Ghostbusters is one that you left out, Mr. LePire, for shame on you. And of course, the real Ghostbusters animated series. They're going to find a lot of the things they liked in Afterlife in those other properties as well. So as far as this being an intergenerational piece, I think it hits the nail on the head in a way that I think filmmakers are going to strive to replicate with various amounts of success as we continue moving forward in the 2020s.
All sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. LePire, you may begin.
The titles I have prosecuted in this courtroom include Cool World and The Babadook. While I have many issues with both films, they have some artistic merit or some cool moment to help keep viewers engaged. Jason Reitman's boondoggle that is called Ghostbusters Afterlife has zero artistic merit beyond McKenna Grace's better than this rotten filth deserves performance. Prove art matters more than nostalgia for its own sake, and vote guilty.
Thank you. Mr. Schlender, please present your closing argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. Gentlemen, we can look at Ghostbusters Afterlife in a couple of ways, and I think each is strong. It is a continuation of a beloved franchise, and it is also a fun introduction to a new generation. One thing this movie did for us was it shows us that the Ghostbuster world is much bigger than what we just saw in Ghostbusters 1 and 2. Much like the animated series and the 2009 video game, which is amazing, and every fan should play or at least watch gameplay videos of it on YouTube, we now have a whole realized cinematic world to work with. The movie may be called Afterlife, but really what it is a new life, a fond tip of the hat, a passing of the torch, and time for a new generation. And as a little aside, when I saw Afterlife in the theater, I had my kids with me, and they laughed when it was funny. And a certain unkie. And when we saw it, we were laughing. We got scared when the parts were scary. And then my children had all sorts of questions about Ghostbusters after. And I was so happy to answer them and so happy to know that this movie sparking that interest in them, that they'll have cartoons and other movies and video games and comics. There's a comic where the Ghostbusters meet the Transformers and the Ecto-1 transforms. It's amazing stuff, okay? And that's what this movie did for us. So thank you, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I'm looking forward to what we get next. Thank you.
Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Maynard Bangs, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, and Mr. When someone asks you if you're Ryan Luis Rodriguez, you say yes, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
Last time I met a ghost at a bar, he told me he was just there for the booze.
Boo.
Oh, boo!
That's what he said, yes.
All right, guys. Interesting case. What did you think? I'd like to hear from Ben first.
Well, he didn't mention the one thing that I hated the most about Ghostbusters Afterlife, and that was the original cast coming back. I mean, he did mention Egon, I guess, but that moment where it's just like sort of tugging at people's nostalgia, it just felt sad to me just to see like them like sort of chained to this film they did 37 years ago, and they're all old now. They haven't like grown past this thing.
Bill Murray looks the saddest out of all of them that he has to be there.
And if you close your eyes, like he sounds like Peter Venkman, so there's that. But then as soon as you open them again, it's like, oh, this is sad. And then CGIing
Harold Ramis
Egon. It just Harold Ramis Egon. It that too just like makes me feel like, okay, you guys are, as an audience, we're so stuck to nostalgia that we can't get past it. We got to see more Ghostbusters because that's all we know. Like, get over yourself, guys. Let's try some new things. But that wasn't mentioned in the case, so I won't use it against it.
He mentioned it a bit in a rebuttal to the defense, as far as this just being nothing but member berries and nostalgia. So it was brought up.
Yeah, the who you gonna call? Yeah, that was a groan.
But we heard a lot more about like the musical cues than we heard about like those kind of.
And I
cheap
do agree
pops.
with the musical cues as well.
It didn't stick out.
It doesn't feel like it fits. It's like because I know them so well from the 1984 film, and it's like, it's not matching up with the beats. It wasn't, like composed for this scene. It's clearly just overlaid on top of it. So I definitely noticed it.
Yeah, they should have maybe done something inspired by or wholly original. Rye Guy?
Right, yeah.
I think my biggest issue is that I was really surprised when this movie came out how people were complaining that the tone was different than the original Ghostbusters, as if that's a negative thing. But I honestly think that if you have a franchise and you want to change up the tone for different installments, that's not a bad thing. I think that...
Is it bad to change it to a Goonies thing, though?
I don't mind that. I think that if they did it well, it wouldn't be a problem. But it's Goonies half-baked. It's not... And I'm not even necessarily a huge Goonies fan, but this is not as good as the Goonies. That's the main issue.
No, when I see kids operating proton gunner seats and driving through town, I call no way. Not like if this is in the universe of the first film, this wouldn't happen.
But see, I wouldn't mind that if it was well executed. But I think that's where the main issue comes down to, is that it's not very well executed. It really is a parade of nostalgic references until the end, when it literally becomes the first Ghostbusters again. And I've seen Ghostbusters. I mean, I'll watch it again probably someday, but I don't need to see it again right now. I'm watching a different movie, but this movie doesn't seem to understand that.
There's this weird tug of war kind of going on between what you guys are talking about, it being this whole parade of nostalgia, and what Ryan just mentioned is that they want to do something different. And it's like, they want to do something different while completely remaking Ghostbusters.
Yes.
And that's where this movie has this weird tug of war, where this tone doesn't match like the original Ghostbusters, but all the plot points do. And so that's sort of this weird middle place for it to be. Like, I do think Bobby brought it out, like, why are there little marshmallow men? Just because they're in the first one.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue there. Like, there's no excuse. There's literally no excuse.
Why is there an Ecto 1? Well, just because, these are the things of the franchise that everyone knows, and we have to bring those back. The jumpsuits that, like, those would never fit those kids in a million years.
Yeah,
they're a little baggy, but not.
Like, they rolled up their sleeves, and it's like, okay, yeah, it fits the kid. Yeah, no way.
Yeah,
that girl's way smaller.
Yeah. Now, what about
doesn't Podcast have his name stitched on his jumpsuit?
I think they write it. Yeah, I think they write it on on top of it.
They might write
also,
it.
Podcast, stupid name for a character, by the way.
No, I actually like everything about Podcast. I like his little nickname that he's given himself. So it's supposed to be goofy. To me,
I like that he gave it himself.
Yeah, I think he's very funny because he's so annoying. It is Goonies feeling, but I mean, that's where we talk about the clashes, but he's the Goonies Super 8 version of Ray, right? So he works. Finn Wolford isn't very good, but he's just like the hot button kid actor right now, but they just caught him a little bit too late, and he's just a little too teenagery. And obviously McKenna Grace is like a revelation. I mean,
she's amazing. She's absolutely.
Yeah, Paul Rudd. What do you guys think?
I love Paul Rudd,
but I thought he was really good in this film.
He's fine. There's nothing particularly wrong with him. It's just I'm not invested in the character.
We didn't hear much about it in the case, though. But I think there's just enough Paul Rudd. If there was a little bit more, we wouldn't like him. He kind of is the tonal. Like Venkman in this a little bit, because he's like skeezing on the mom, but she likes it. So he's kind of that sort of.
He's more charming though.
Yeah,
he's not as selfish.
He thinks he's charming. He's sort of a goof,
no, but that's what's funny about him. He's
a 2022 Venkman where he can't be as creepy, which is why I think Ghostbusters is not romantic.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, so he's just like he's smarmy without being
more
creepy,
politically acceptable,
right? Yeah, and yeah, we didn't really get to talk about the ending as much in the case, but yeah, it's I'm surprised we didn't. I'm surprised that those kind of plot points weren't attacked more, because that is, the member berries are what makes me groan the most through this. And when they decide to do something fresh like Phoebe or that's a lot of it, honestly. I mean, even Gozer is a retread of the original movie. They couldn't even dare to make their own villain or lore. So who wants to
I'll lock in. I'm going guilty, baby.
All right.
Any other reasons why besides anything we've said? Like what
No,
really
I think we've
you?
covered all the major issues that I have with this film.
Okay. Big Ben.
Walking out of the theater, it was 50-50 for me. Going based solely on the arguments presented, I think I do agree more with the prosecution. Finn Wolfman on Wall Street's not all that great. The only thing that pulls it back from me is McKenna Grace and Paul Rudd, but he wasn't mentioned as much. I'm going guilty as well.
All right. Well, it doesn't matter exactly.
And also, that Transformers Ghostbusters thing sounds stupid. I'm not watching that.
Jeez,
what? It's a comic. It's awesome.
I'll go in here. It doesn't matter exactly what I say now. We're here to determine if things are bad. To me, a bad is like a 3 out of 10. And while I hate the memberberry stuff, to me this reminds me of like Force Awakens, where they're just trying to remake New Hope. Like this is just trying to remake the first Ghostbusters, but with, you know, a little bit more kid friendly, Goonies-esque. McKenna Grace is so good. I think she lifts this whole movie out of the muck. Like more than enough, actually. Honestly, more than enough. I'm glad to watch this again because she's just so funny and interesting to watch. You know, that she makes up for a lot of the bad stuff, and as annoying memberberry stuff as like the Marshmallow Boys are, I laugh at them. They were funny. So for me, it's just enough to take it to not guilty, but my vote's not enough to get this film off. So I guess we'll have to go out there and tell that very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of The People versus Ghostbusters Afterlife, we find the defendant guilty of being a bad movie.
Yes!
The verdict is so rendered.
Justice for McKenna!
Ghostbusters Afterlife is hereby sentenced to another extraneous and unnecessary sequel, until which time, as Sony Pictures will have to give it back to the fans. Again.
Oh, Lord.
Court is adjourned.
No more Ghostbusters, please.
This is Schlender, also known as the Ghost of Chris Farley, reporting to you live outside the Reels of Justice. Bouncin Bobby LePire, you won this case. Do you have any thoughts on that verdict?
I am so relieved. Whenever I enter this courthouse, I always have pages upon pages upon pages of issues and notes that I never actually get to talk about. And then a jury member will bring them up. I'm like, oh, that is a major one I should have brought up. I didn't have time. So I'm happy that even though I didn't bring up some of the really big stuff that I hate about this movie, I still won. I still got to make my case. And I'm going to leave here knowing justice was well served.
Thank you. And I realize I sound more like Cookie Monster. But here comes Dylan J. Schlender. Excuse me, could we get a thought on how you feel about the verdict?
Well, it's always tough to lose, but there's no shame in losing to Bouncin Bobby LePire. He's a great friend of the show, and I was very happy to take him on mano a mano in court, so I tipped my hat to Bobby, and I say thank you to everyone in the court for services well rendered, and I will talk to you all at the post-trial analysis part.
Thank you very much, and that's all we have from Courthouse today. Let's go back to that studio for post-trial analysis. Nom, 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 nom.
Cookie.
I thought you sounded more like a hairy monster from Sesame Street.
I don't know. Actually, I thought you kind of sounded a little bit like Chris Farley. But
What?
I don't know.
I didn't know
Chris
Cookie
Farley's
Monster.
ghost.
I second the hairy monster thing.
Thank you, hairy monster. Exactly, just a little bit more.
Wait,
Herman
but Munster?
No, I did not know Ryan and Ben disliked this movie this much. Actually, maybe we had talked about it, but I didn't know it was as strong as you guys.
Oh
We
no!
talked about it-
When this
we talked
aired,
about it the week after this
I put
movie
on the
came
chat.
out.
I forgot.
I put on the chat. Find me someone that wants to defend this movie, and then Bobby comes in and he wants to prosecute it. So I was out.
Oh dang, yeah. And then I just remembered when you did the Slimer that they have Muncher, which is for all intents and purposes Slimer. And I'm
that was an issue I didn't have time to bring
and
up.
a terrible plot
my
device
God.
too. They free him so he can eat through the bars to get out.
Right, and it's like he's a
Why
ghost.
doesn't he just fly
Except
through the
And then he
bars?
flies to the ceiling. Like, why didn't he just do that in the cell?
Yeah, exactly. Before biting his way out. Yeah, it is silly. I stand by my not guilty because McKenna Grace is awesome. Too bad she's going to be way too old to be a Ghostbuster ever again, I'm sure. But we'll have her doing a great job.
If I was in the jury, I would.
She's
I
going to
would
be too
probably
old.
Wait, this is
say-
getting a sequel?
Yeah,
Oh, of
they're already
course,
working on it
it
right
is.
now.
You
Green
gotta
light.
be
The-
shitting me.
The thing
No.
about this movie is the internet hated the 2016 movie so much that this movie had to over course correct, which is why they just couldn't do anything original. They're like, we can't take any risk that this doesn't feel exactly like the first Ghostbusters to the fans. We need to just feed them nostalgia.
Let's make Goonies instead.
But it
yeah.
still doesn't feel like Ghostbusters, and that's the problem.
No, it doesn't.
Hey, I mean,
like-
take it up
like-
with them.
I do not care for the 2016 version at all, but it is doing its own
You're not
thing.
going to like my recommendations.
It is doing its own thing, And I like the cast. I think
Mhm.
the editing is bad. I think the plot makes
Yeah.
no sense, and I think the special effects and action is terrible, which of course kills a movie like that. Um, but it is very uniquely a different Ghostbusters.
I also don't care for the action. Like I really dislike the 2016's like last act when they
Yep.
actually start busting ghosts.
Yep.
But I adore the first act when they're becoming friends and building the team. I laugh at a lot of stuff. What is that? The world's tiniest bow tie? Would you get
Yeah.
that? It came with the shirt. I think it's very funny and from like I like Kate McKinnon obviously and SNL, but like I normally wouldn't care for Kristen Wiig unless she's going to be like a cheetah superhero. That's from Wonder Woman. You guys saw it. And
Yes,
Melissa
you're wrong.
McCarthy
Got
is
it.
not someone I would traditionally. I was kidding. I didn't really like her. It was sarcasm. And yeah, McCarthy is not someone I would usually like, but I find their friendships together so great.
No, that's totally valid. I think it's undone because it wants to be an action movie.
Yeah, which it wasn't going to be particularly strong.
Like if I'm watching a silly action movie that goes direct to VOD or something, starring Luke Goss. Luke Goss is or Scott Adkins. They're incredible martial artists. They can do some really cool stunts. If the action's good enough, I can overlook a lot of the other flaws in these low budget movies and still have some fun with it. A big budget movie should be able to do the same thing. I should still be able to
Hey.
find something competent in what their goal is.
No matter what, Andy Garcia raises up the 2016 Ghostbusters out of the muck.
Do not call me the Jaws Mayor.
Do not ever compare me to the Jaws Mayor.
Andy Garcia's in that movie. I genuinely
yes,
don't
he's the
remember.
mayor.
He's the mayor.
He's excellent.
I forgot.
And he's got Cicely Strong as his assistant, who puts up a very strong performance.
I totally believe you. I don't remember at all.
Well, now we know your homework, Bobby. It'll be to rewatch that. Now, besides that, Bobby, what have you been up to since the last time we talked to you? What's been keeping you busy?
Oh, my day job's in retail and the holidays just ended. So that. And then, of course, still doing Film Threat, still editing, writing, all that good jazz for them. And, beginning of the year is when film festivals start. Sundance, Slam Dance, South by Southwest is coming up. So busy.
Awesome.
So what would be like a recent article or review you've done for Film Threat that we should check out?
In the later half of 2022, I reviewed a movie called Murder Anyone, directed by James Colin Bressick, and it was written by his now late father, Gordon Bressick, who is one of the creators of Pinky and the Brain. That's a really good review. That was a lot of fun to write. The movie was a lot of fun to watch. So if you want to check out something pretty recent that I did, I would do that one. Or if I want to go the opposite direction and read something I didn't much care for, let me think. I don't write too many negative reviews that often. Oh, there's got to be something. Why is nothing coming to my brain? God damn it. I have to look on that one, so we're going to
you
pause
hate
on that.
so many things.
Well, if we just Google Bobby LePire and Film Threat, I'm sure we'll find something.
Yeah, you can literally type my name into the Film Threat website, and it'll just everything I review come up.
I just have to think of a movie that I liked this year, and then we'll figure out a movie you didn't, like Beast with Idris Elba.
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
I like Idris Elba. I thought it looked good. I just didn't have a chance to see it in theaters. So.
He fights a lion.
It's remarkably straightforward. I
like
really
hand to
appreciate
hand.
That sounds awesome. That's what I want. That's what I wanted in the movie. So it sounds good.
Yeah, it was totally a lot of fun. So we do always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. So what is a movie that you think people should see?
So today, I got to prosecute one of the worst movies of 2022. Like words cannot describe how much I hate Afterlife. Like I really did hold back because I did not bring up every point in my case, but I would prefer to eat the devil's anus than ever watch this again. That's how much I despise this movie. So instead, I bring you the exact opposite, one of the best, most underrated movies of 2022, and that is Waiting for Bojangles. It is about a. It's based on a book. It's about a family, George's and Camilla. They have a really fun, flirty relationship, and just more money than God. They really do love their son, and they give him a fun lifetime, a fun lifestyle. And then life just pulls the rug out from under all of them. When that happens, things take several unexpected twists that I don't want to give away, but it's the movie's so beautifully shot. It's so charming and well acted. It's absolutely incredible. And by the end of the year, I'm hearing nobody talk about it, and I'm really shocked it's not up for more. Was not up for more awards. Wasn't getting more recognition. It's remarkable. It is available for purchase or rent. It's not free, unfortunately, on Prime, Vudu, iTunes, Google Play, and places like that.
If you wait long enough, it will be.
That's true.
A lot of people waiting for Bojangles. But don't wait. Go get it now. Why not?
According to Letterboxd, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was your least favorite film of 2022.
Oh, fuck yeah. That movie caused me to drink. Yeah. No, really. I saw that with my friend Michael, and we left the theater and we just went to the bar, and he bought me a beer because I hated it so much. I had the same reaction to Halloween Kills.
Don't you get me started on Halloween Kills. We're not going down that rabbit hole. You're trying to bait me out.
Yeah, no. I don't really drink alcohol. I think most of it tastes bad. So when if somebody causes me to drink, something is terrible. Something is just devastatingly bad. Yeah, I hated that movie.
Yeah, Bodies, 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 and apparently Halloween Kills. So.
Yes, Halloween
Kills.
And
people don't drink alcohol for the taste. So
then why drink it at all?
Well, it's the magical buzzy feelings it brings you. Schlenzo, what is your recommendation?
Man, Halloween Kills might be the worst movie of 2020.
Yeah, I hate you, and it wasn't. It was 2021. So you're thinking of Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends is the worst movie of 2022.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
they're both garbage. All right.
No.
Yes, they are. But
he killed those firemen.
Yeah, guys, they're both garbage. Now, we're at the end of an era. For today,
yes, the error was finding this movie guilty.
Yes.
The error.
Yes. So, I am recommending the last J. Lee Thompson, Charlie Bronson collaboration that I haven't recommended yet.
Yay! All right, it's over.
That's my joke.
Yeah. Now, I did not save the best for last. I didn't even save the last one they did for last, but I saved the most important one for last. And that is Death Wish 4, The Crackdown. In this, Charlie Bronson reprised...
Isn't this Michael Winner?
No. Michael Winner did the first 3, but then he left, and Bronson's like, hey, I know a guy who will do this on the cheap. And they brought in J. Lee Thompson. And yes, they did it on the cheap, and it is fantastic. For you see, Charlie Bronson returns as Paul Kersey, the architect turned vigilante. But this time, his girlfriend's daughter ODs on drugs, and so he needs to crack down on those who are selling the crack. You see, well, it's mostly cocaine and stuff. Yeah, it's the 80s. You know how they did. One of the things I love about this movie is that its sense of time is just way off. It is way off. He's doing all of these things. He's like infiltrating a gang. He's getting like 3 different fake jobs so he can scout and get intelligence. And then he goes back to the guy who hires him. He goes, hey, what happened to the guy who was here last week? It's like, last week you've clearly been working for a month. Anyway, it's full of action, and it has the best final line of any Death Wish. When he walks away from the guy holding the gun on him, he goes, you do what you've got to do. But I won't put it into proper context. You have to watch the movie to see why it's so cool.
And he blows someone up with a soccer ball.
That's number 5.
Oh, we should watch 5 then.
That's the last one, Faces of Death, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's funny, too. He's like, hey, I got something that will fix your dandruff, and he blows a soccer ball up in the guy's face.
Are you going to start recommending Robert Bronzi movies after this?
Absolutely.
Don't give him ideas.
No. See, now that all the Thompson Bronson movies have been recommended, I need to make a very important decision that every man makes in his
Kurosawa
life.
films, my friend.
Do you recommend Thompson movies or Bronson movies?
If you do Bronson movies, you can do Yes, Virginia, There Is a Santa Claus.
Yeah, but that's a TV movie and it's a holiday special, so I
Yeah,
don't
and
know.
why would we recommend holiday specials, Bobby? It's January.
I've been saying last year this entire time. Thank you very much.
Good, as you should, because it was last year.
I'm aware.
Ryan, you were the judge, so why don't you give us your recommendation, Ryan?
My recommendation this week concerns a dearly departed genius auteur, Jonathan Demme, 1988's Married to the Mob. Thanks to the Blank Check podcast, which I'm quickly catching up on, I've been discovering entries in Demme's oeuvre, and it has one of his ever impressive tonal shifts, several of them actually, and tremendous performances from the likes of Michelle Pfeiffer, Dean Stockwell, and a tragically unnominated Mercedes Ruehl. It's funny, it's quirky, it's immaculately photographed, everything Demme is known for, and more. Married to the Mob is currently streaming on Tubi. I apologize ahead of time.
Stop bashing
for the
Tubi.
ads.
Tubi's great.
Yeah, they sponsor us. I don't remember a lot about the movie Blank Check, but I'm surprised it's got a whole podcast about it.
Oh, remember, like, the guy thinks the kids
Boo.
Mr. Macintosh. I remember everything about it. Big Ben, Big Bun. What's your recommendation?
I already phoned it in, but I have this record of being the one who has the most recommendations that ended up being trials, so I'm kind of padding that resume a little bit because I do fully admit that this film does have flaws. But yes, I'm going with 2016's Ghostbusters, also known as Ghostbusters Answer the Call. And between it and Ghostbusters Afterlife, I think Answer the Call was much closer to the mark for a franchise seed, since for some confounding reason, they're desperately trying to pull a Terminator and find a way to make more and more sequels when they should probably just leave well enough alone. The first one, after all, was just so perfect. It was lightning in a bottle that could probably never be recaptured. But all that said, Answer the Call is still as close to a good Ghostbusters follow-up as I've seen, with a hilarious cast and not being too tied to the notions of nostalgia like some film that was just put on trial was. But it certainly understands the spirit of the original. It was a movie that was unfairly hated and before it even saw the light of day. And you can put me in the camp of Holtzman fanatics. It's not without flaws, certainly, but it's also not a bad film. And I think it has a well-earned place in the recommendations of justice, with its mantra of containing films that are not necessarily all good, but should be seen and evaluated. So if anyone takes umbrage with what I just said, like Bobby, I will see you in the court.
You're on.
I would not want to prosecute that movie in this court. We're all Holtzman fanatics.
We're Holtzman fans.
Holtzman is my second favorite Ghostbuster after Phoebe. But and there's a lot of fun in 2016. A lot of it's Chris Hemsworth too. I forgot. Chris Hemsworth is great in that. What's better, me playing saxophone or me listening to saxophone?
That's funny, but like him, covering his eyes when something's too loud.
Yeah, there's gags that don't work. There's gags that don't work. Anyway, so I'll send us on home. Our film this week was a comedy tinged with a bit of horror, and my recommendation is a horror film tinged with a bit of comedy, and also featuring the talents of McKenna Grace. 2019's Annabelle Comes Home. A lot of the Conjuring universe movies kind of slip off the brain. I'm looking at you, Curse of La Llorona. And the Annabelle films are no exception, but this one stands out as easily the most fun entry to the series. Ed and Lorraine Warren, defeaters of all that is supernaturally evil, leave their home, their daughter Judy, played by Grace, and their enormous collection of ungodly and cursed paraphernalia in the care of a trusted babysitter, as is the done thing. But when a friend from school accidentally releases the possessed doll Annabelle, all hell breaks loose. Literally. And the house becomes overrun with the demonic manifestations of the Warrens' corrupted cachet. This film is a standout in the series for giving us a taste of all the wickedly fun collectibles we've seen the Warrens hoarding since the first Conjuring movie. But honestly, if you're not the type to get excited about a demonically possessed board game, you better skip this movie, as well as Family Night, because I'm bringing hateful hippos. Annabelle Comes Home is currently streaming on HBO Max. So I said hateful hippos.
Yes, you did.
It works the second time.
It's an interesting film.
It's my favorite one, and I did like the kind of prequely one too.
Creation.
creation, yeah, but don't like the first one. Don't
Nope.
care for that one. But we'll see how that goes. But with that, we are all out of show. But we want to thank our guest, Bouncin Bobby LePire, for joining us. Thank you so much, Bobby.
Thank you for having me again. And next time, I promise, I'll recommend Return of Daimogen. I haven't forgotten.
Are we not up to Wrath of Daimogen?
No, it's the third one. It's
Yeah.
the third one.
Is that like Wrath of Daimogen, I think?
Yeah, but I only ever recommend the second one.
No, originally you were recommending the first one. Then you were just doing the second one.
I was just doing the second one because you guys brought it up one time, and then in the first time I was here, I recommended the first one. Then I've only ever done the second one, and I've never gone past it.
Okay,
my problem
I think you
with
should
Wrath
recommend
of
the second
Daimogen-
one again.
Maynard, my problem with Wrath of Daimogen is that Daimogen never actually meets Chekhov.
That was problematic, absolutely. But did you know that Daimogen absolutely would have been on the Enterprise based on star dates?
Oh, well, there
Yeah.
you go.
We had a very good fans double check this, and I guarantee Daimogen is there. But we hope that Bobby, you'll join us again soon, and we hope everyone else will join us as well as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Did we lose Ryan?
I'm here.
Daimogen.
You have to say something. I
Oh,
thought you died. I was really worried. I thought you died.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.